the rest of the hour here on this Wednesday, the 29th day of August 2012, is Steve Quayle, talk show host, best-selling author, written Blueprint for Survival, investment perspectives on precious metals, and so many others. But I remember him talking about chimeras and cross-species clones 15 years ago and going, yeah, right. And now it's mainstream news. So one area, though, where you can't debate with him is he's been 100% accurate saying foreign troops, Russians, others were training out in Colorado and places, and now it's mainstream news. Russian special forces, Russian aircraft practicing fighting terrorists in America. That was in the Associated Press 2 days ago. We can put that, guys, type that in. People won't believe it. People watching on prisonplanet.tv, for radio listeners, I want to get the exact headline. It's like Russian Air Force to fight terrorists and drill in America. I mean, it's so crazy how they're just acclimating us. And it doesn't mean they're going to come get us tomorrow. It's this global government. It's the military being told, you're under NATO and UN command now, and Congress being told, sit down, shut up, by the Joint Chiefs and the chairman and Obama in open letters. It's the announcements on CNBC that we've been taken over by foreign banks and we're slaves to a global government. Those are quotes. You've heard me play it probably 50 times in the last few months. Hundreds of publications announcing, we're under a world government. It's authoritarian for your own good. That's the Financial Times of London right there with the Bilderberg Group member saying that. There's Cyber News Service, CNS News. Russian Americans take part in joint Air Force counter-terror drill. See, there you go. I mean, it's all getting Twilight Zone right now. It's all getting Twilight Zone because they want to just suspend disbelief, get everybody's normalcy bias going, where we'll put up with anything, like the TSA fishing around in our wives' and children's underwear. I mean, it is amazing what we'll put up with. Now we have Obama people on Hardball, on other shows saying we need new shootings, we need new bombings. This will help get Obama reelected. I played those clips in the first hour. We have all these quotes about a new terror attack to be blamed on our enemies will save us. They don't say they're going to do it, but they leave 1 degree of saying they're going to do it. They're like, gee, a terror attack would sure help, and don't worry, one's coming. So now we've got Mr. Hagman's source that fits in with my police sources, and my Homeland Security sources are too scared to talk to me now. They say everything's surveilled. I mean, I've got to go meet somebody in a field if I want to, and that's too dangerous because somebody could be posing as some of my sources. I've got them in state police, FBI, Justice Department, federal marshals. In the old days, it was still fun and games until they get death threats when they talk to me. I mean, stuff's being listened to, folks, okay? I mean, that's come out. They've got the NSA not spying on foreign terrorists, on people in government. And somehow you've got to, in fact, I should ask Hagman that because he's about to leave us in a moment, but I wanted to bring Steve Quayle up if he had any questions, for Doug to have the two kind of dovetail together here at the end of our talk with Doug Hagman of the Northeast Intelligence Network, that this is all coming to a head. And we would be crazy to not be concerned about a false flag when this is when the season of that is upon us. So Steve Quayle of stevequayle.com joins us because I remember him 2 years ago saying they're going to weaponize drones and use our GPS coordinates to use them against us. Comedy Central played the clip of him on the show and said we were insane. Now it's mainstream news that they're using autonomous drones and Predators and Reapers and what's that other one, Global Hawk, armed, flying around in the future. I mean, I wish Steve Quayle was wrong. But more and more, I've got to say, wow, even the stuff that because he's always been a great mind, incredible talker, great guy to listen to, but you're still kind of like, oh, come on, Steve. And then now it's like, is the other stuff he's saying true? I mean, I know he believes it, but I'm like, my gosh, I know he has these sources, but are they feeding him disinfo? I hope so. I hope this isn't true. Steve Quayle, I don't know how much of the last hour you heard, but what's your take on it all?
Well, right now, Alex, we are absolutely under full-scale occupation by foreign troops under the guise of United Nations, NATO. It is the New World Army. What you've warned about, what you've posted videos about, what Doug writes about, it's all in play now. And, it's amazing because the level of denial and normalcy bias is so accelerating. In other words, I would have thought that all of our combined efforts and all of our would wake more people up. Now, granted, some people are waking up, but all you have to do is realize that the mainstream media is the inoculation mechanism to totally destroy your brain and keep the people from coming to the knowledge of the truth. And here's what the truth is. We are under occupation by the foreign governments. You just talked about the Air Force. The Russians are here. The three statements that they've made publicly, now they're in NORAD, one of our most top secret command centers. They're absolutely supposedly going after the CIA headquarters in Denver as an exercise and the NSA in Utah. The point is, if this wasn't just out of the America series, I don't know what is. And for the record, ladies and gentlemen, all of the critics and shills out there are trying to keep the biggest secret from you in the world. We are under communist, global, Luciferian occupation, soon to go into full-scale warfare, and all that we've warned about, all that we've said is going to happen, the militarization of the police, obviously Alex's appearance at the Bilderbergers, showing you in living color that these entities, I'm going to use that word, Alex, entities exist. The point is, it's rape, pillage, and plunder. The United States is going under. Now, I'm not a fatalist. I'm a realist. But you know what it's like, Alex. You almost have to suspend belief in order to emotionally cope with some of the stuff. But when it all comes rushing to the foreground before your eyes, you can't deny it any longer. Doug's sources are not my sources. My sources are not Alex Jones's sources. You just went on a litany about people are frightened. I can tell you point blank that when generals who are 4-stars say that even they've got to watch what they say, and they've got to be careful. Everybody is at war with each other. And so to the men and women that Doug and I addressed last night on his show that are in uniform, you must stand up for what's right. You took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Right now, Alex, we've got so many fifth column terrorists in this country. And by the way, terrorists, let me define terrorists. Terrorists is nothing more than a professional group of assassins and general mayhem inducers that are under someone's control, someone's command, and they're being paid. The bottom line is it's insanity to close the northern border with Canada. If you're an American citizen, see how you're treated when you go into Canada, and let the southern borders wide open. The head of the Border Patrol, before he quit a number of years ago, called me and says, Steve, I can't take it. They're putting my men out to slaughter. And you, Alex, have had Border Patrol guys on. We've talked about all this stuff. Listen, Doug's source and my source corroborate, and then I'll turn it over to Doug, how many, if you will, other than Mexicans. This is not an anti-Latino. My best friend in the world was a Latino, and bless her heart, Mary Juarez. The point is that this is an anti-terrorist rant of the fifth column of full-scale warriors, professional warriors coming in through the southern border, and trust me, they speak other languages than Spanish. So Doug and I both got the same numbers of how many were coming through, and we both were in disbelief. Wasn't it, Doug, about, 50,000 a month?
Between 40 and 50, Steve, 1,000 a month, and that's just one specific narrow area that we know of. There could be others, but I mean that alone is staggering to me. So, but you're 100% correct. And what normal person, what normal security apparatus for the United States would allow this to happen if there was not? What does
your source say the 1.4 billion rounds of ammo are for?
Are you talking to me, Alex, or Doug?
Doug and Steve Quayle, just briefly, as Doug's leaving us.
Let me answer that real quick. My source is told that that's for the private army that is going to be resurrected out of the mayhem that Obama's already gone on record on. You've done shows on it, Alex. You've posted on your website, the New York Times, the Boy Scouts being trained with H&K MP5s. And I actually calculated how many weapons, how many rounds, how many magazines. And it's pretty interesting because, again, we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, the federalization, or let's call it even a better word, the Luciferic control of all law enforcement, global dominance, perpetual war for perpetual peace, and this is the exact setting the Bible sets up in the book of Revelation for the reign and rule of Antichrist. We are going in, Alex, and are already seeing right now the strategic placement. Those billions of rounds, and I've been in the firearms business for 30 years, so I know a little bit about the gun business, know a lot of people all over the country and world, as a matter of fact, and the source that I got it from basically stated this is for the civilian private military that will be raised up under Obama's second term in order to basically quash and crush all rebellion.
And that's one point. The media is always 450 million, 750 million, 250 million. Since last November, it's 1.4 billion, and that's a month old. They're buying millions more. Now they're classifying it. It's blacked out. We reported on that a few weeks ago. It became a national story on the new ammo, but it's giant black armored vehicles. In fact, I've got photos of them, hundreds of them, armored pillboxes digging in. I mean, you can look at the architecture. It can be secret, but the public intelligence is how they're set up. This is being set up for a war against county and city government, not just against the people. When you look at the configuration, they're preparing to take over state houses. The architecture of this warfare system is pointed at the states.
Absolutely, and every single state capitol building is already marked. It's already basically the teams that are going to take those over are already located, literally, if you will.
The radio, the TV, the Pentagon admits that. The re-education camps, that document's public. Folks, the Army admitted the document we got was real and said we weren't supposed to have it, that it was restricted. Re-education camps, how to process sheet with your Social Security in America with your number. Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about a year and a half ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of longevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. Steve Quayle is our guest right now, and we have Mr. Hagman with us as well. He's going to leave us here in just a moment. Doug, was there anything else you'd like to add or say to Steve here or ask Steve?
Well, Alex, I just want to say this. Steve has long been a good friend, and our sources now are saying the same exact thing. And I've got to tell you, this is a perfect segue into Steve's segment, because we've talked leading up to this show and compared notes. And I've got to tell you, everything that Steve is about to tell you is consistent with the information I've received from my sources. And I'll just leave it at that. And God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Look, I've had police call in when they had tanks rolling around St. Louis doing urban warfare drills that they were going to stay in the future, and that they were told, get ready for collapse in late October, early November. And the cop broke down crying, and then later I confirmed it with other sources and confirmed the police officer and information. This is going on everywhere. Special forces operations to acclimate us, to acclimate the military that this is okay. Steve, is it a financial collapse they're getting ready for? I mean, from your sources, how is this going to play out, and can we stop it?
You cannot stop it, and it's going to play out because it's designed. You know, not only is the love of money the root of all evil, the control of money is the control of all evil. By choking off everyone's bank accounts, you know, Alex, we talked about a little bit yesterday on your TV show, the Drudge Report carrying the story about the cyber attacks on banks, the true amount of money that has disappeared from customers' account and specific banks, over 200 banks. The real truth is never given in its totality unless you talk to the people that know, for instance, who designed the program that watches banks when they come under cyber attack. So here's how it's going to go down. And this is what I've been told, and this is what's been verified. And for the record, the verifications now will come instantly. You know that, Alex. We'll do a show, or you'll do a show, and 2 or 3 people get a hold of you, and even the people that, and I want to commend your wisdom, do not be drawn out into any field with anybody anytime, okay? They're too good at spoofing identities. They'll give you real information. And I don't know if you know this, Alex, but we really, really prayed for you and your family. I did last night on Doug Hagman's show.
I didn't know that. No, thank you.
I had the, and no, I'm not, this is not to be, you know, anything other than this. Is, look, ladies and gentlemen, Alex is in obviously a position of effectuating information dispersal and change. And I'm talking change, not that will destroy the country, but will save your life. So I want those of you who understand the lateness of the hour to recognize that you asked me a question, Alex. I wish I were wrong. I wish we could stop it. The only thing that we can do right now is prepare for the worst case scenario and understand. This is what I cannot get across to people. You had Graithwall on your show. 50 million people already are assigned to be assassinated when the next power play goes in place. This is a full, and I'm not apologizing.
Well, that was when he was in the Weathermen, who are like Obama's bosses. I mean, he was in the meeting, and they said, we're going to put 50 million in re-education. We're going to kill 25 million. That's pretty much standard procedure, but that was back in the 70s. Now their plan, you're saying, is to kill even more.
Yeah, 50 to 70. Let me tell you something that's interesting. This is deep background, Alex. And for those of you that want to confirm this to Alex, the President of the United States met with Russian generals at Nellis Air Force Base under the cover of a recent Nevada campaign event. In other words, when you've got to understand this, ladies and gentlemen, our country is sold out. And Nellis is where a lot of the Russians are entering the U.S. by air, and then they're being dispersed by bus all over the country, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And again, Alex, I just want to share something. I've gone to a 24/7 format on my website. This is critical. When I get news updates like this, I post them on my Q alerts. The Q alerts is on the right-hand side of my website. I used to be, you know, only updating like once a day, and that won't work and hasn't worked for some time. So I've gone to being able to post myself and have others that post. So the Q alerts on my website is where all the important stuff happens. And so what I'm telling you, point blank, from the deep background, and I will share this, someone who was at Nellis and saw it happen, you have the President of the United States, when he reached over and told Dmitry, wait until the second term, and I've got more leeway. You even you mentioned that on one of your shows. The bottom line is Medvedev said, I will share with Vladimir your statement. So the point is that we have now if you will, an astonishing amount of foreign troops in this country, and most of the American troops are outside the country. And again, this is open source stuff that's verified by Doug's sources, my sources, Greg Evenson sources. Our fighting men in Iraq and in Afghanistan are sitting ducks. And Ahmadinejad has even talked about with the Pakistani ISI. Things are going bad there, but they're talking about taking out our troops over there. So,
all right, stay there, Steve. I want to come back and talk about this.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
What Eric Bros has been on the show a few times of Houston Free Thinkers. I went down and spoke at one of their rallies to end the Fed last year. He's been on a few times as a guest. They protested the TSA running checkpoints in Houston. The city was forced to remove them. They got detained by Homeland Security and TSA. There's video of that. He told me about it yesterday. So the video was coming. He emailed it to us. Steve Watson now has it up. We'll get him on tomorrow or maybe even tonight from Tampa. But it just went up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Video, TSA takes over bus station in Tampa. DHS agents threaten journalist. And this is part of a pattern now where they even know who you are. It was like the We Are Change reporter, Julio, up in Chicago, showed DHS running checkpoints A week later, they came up to him on the street and said, "We're watching you. We saw your video. You don't do that in America." So this is all just off the charts, insane, how out of control. These videos are pretty amazing. They're up at Infowars.com. Video, TSA takes over bus station in Tampa. DHS agents threaten journalists. That's the latest breaking news at PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com. We'll have some clips of those videos tonight on Infowars Nightly News. And we'll get, again, Mr. Bros on very quickly, either tonight or tomorrow from Tampa. And we're also going to be following the hurricane. Hope the levees don't break. We haven't gotten back with our reporter source, Charles, who reported on us for during Katrina. He said one of the levees had broken in the area he was at. They're saying water's going over the levees. We're going to continue to track that. Going back, I remember Steve Quayle 15 years ago talking about weather weapons. Now that's admitted. Look, Steve, here's the deal. I know you're a smart guy. You have a lot of sources because you've been around forever. I'm not denying that you believe this. You talked about Russian troops secretly training. Now that's admitted. Bizarre. We're in the land of bizarre. You know, the government shipping guns into Mexico to destabilize things and blame the Second Amendment, a false flag. But we see Soros and others trying to overthrow Putin. We see that destabilization campaign. I know the globalists are running the Chinese government, but the Russians, from my evidence, there's some type of split. I know that they fight with each other, and I know the globalists like to balance countries against each other, but I know the U.S. troops are not being led into these secret Russian bases, their NORAD equivalent. So what is going on? I mean, you're now saying you think that, I mean, I know they say in NLE 09 that they would use foreign troops in America. I know they say they're doing anti-terror drills with the Russians. I mean, how would they trigger this? How would they get away with it? I mean, I could see our military under foreign command or mercenaries mixed in with foreigners, but and we've seen the drills for that, but how would they get away with Russian troops? I mean, that's what you're saying, your source? Because, I mean, that would unify Americans, Russian troops.
Well, unfortunately, it won't, because the bottom line is that even our military, most of the good guys have either been outed or outed or assassinated. Here's the thing, Alex, and this is something that most people don't understand. Even though there seems to be a consensus amongst the Western European, U.S., and some of the Asian and Middle Eastern countries, Russia and China a number of years ago got together and signed a secret accord. And for the record, 1 year before that meeting took place, a guy by the name of Dmitry Duduman, you probably read of his prophecies, D-U-D-U-M-A-N, saw the meeting, and they basically had, and this isn't word for word, but overview. This will answer your question specifically. They were aware and they were going to play along with the Americans on their New World Order until the chance came where they could take us out, take us down, and the United States has already been divided up between the Russians and the Chinese. Henry Groover, A.A. Allen, I posted these on my website, Dreams and Visions. I mean, we're talking visions of Russians and Chinese invading the United States from 60 years ago. And so now the thing is, and you know, Stanislav Lunev, Viktor Suvorov, all the different defectors have written books. The number one thing they said, they would be able to succeed because their friends in the government would allow them to pre-position their men and materials ahead of the takeover. Now, let me make this clear to everybody in the military, even those who are side by side. Some friends of mine in a southern state, I won't give the state away, Vietnam vets, God bless every veteran out there, Vietnam, every war vet out there. I want to thank you guys. One of them spoke Russian, and they saw a joint tactical exercise taking place. And fortunately for their skills learned in the jungle, they were able to track the Russians. When the American counterparts, which I think were out of Fort Bragg, left, they overheard the the Russians in Russian stating, these Americans, once we have put down their enemies, we put them down. And they were laughing, giving each other high fives and shaking their heads, saying that the very people they're training with, they're going to turn their weapons on them. Now, Alex, that's from eyewitnesses who speak Russian, having heard it. And
well, Larry Grafwald, who was in the top weatherman meetings with the big union chiefs, they said, we're going to bring in Chinese and Russians once we've taken over. And it all sounds so crazy, but then they're drilling in anti-terror with the Russians. And so it's basically the foreign bankers may do a double take and a triple cross, you're saying, and then do this. But there's a problem. As Admiral Yamamoto said, There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass. No one I know would put up with foreign troops.
Well, they're putting up with them, Alex. We're putting up with them. The point is that, let me share this with you. If you go back and do a little history on Spetsnaz, when I first started writing my book, real quick, the 60-second version, Breathe No Evil and Blueprint for Survival, I was really into the Soviet defense policies. Obviously, I was before, good night, Alexander Lebed was murdered. He was taken down. He's the one that came and testified to the Weldon Committee. I was in a week away from interviewing him, okay? General Lebed was basically the national security advisor for Boris Yeltsin. To make a long story short, the night he got killed, I said on George Norrie Coast to Coast, I said it was either George or Art that he was murdered. Well, his brother came out a week later. But understanding Russian defense policy and civil war was my forte and my take. I was friends with someone whose business partner was the sister of one of the highest ranking members of the KGB. As a matter of fact, the man that ran it before he died. So the point I'm trying to make in this is they're already here. What can Americans do right now? We've seen the pre-positioning and the strategic placement of military arms and armament. We've seen A-10s. We're seeing helicopter gunships in downtown. And see, Alex, you can put up the videos on Infowars.com, and I can put them up and link to your stuff, but people don't get it. Why are they practicing urban warfare in the cities of America? And the bottom line is, it's you, it's me, it's the Americans that are in their targets. And the point is that when Graithwall said that years ago on the Weather Underground, now the number of people they're talking about taking out on the red list is 50 to 75 million people. And in those days, Alex, there's one thing to say, well, there's 300 million Americans or 300 million guns in America, blah, blah, blah. But the drones and the total information awareness and the constant surveillance and the license plate readers and all that stuff.
By the way, here's the new purchases just in the last few days on top of the 1.4 billion. The U.S. Forest Service is asking for another 85,000 rounds of 40 caliber, 150,000 rounds of 223, 10,000 cartridges of 12 gauge, 10,000 of other types of 12 gauge, 9 millimeter, 45, 38. And again, there's so many thousands of pages of these, I can't even read all the stuff they're getting. I mean, that's just reading one of them. It's just pouring out the weapon systems to be used against us. No one can deny that.
Well, right. And here's something coming in while we're on the air. Someone's listening to us. He says he's talked to the government contractor for 30 years. This is just in right now. And they are ordering much more than what is publicly on the Fed BizOps website. Everything has been told to be kept under wraps now, like the 3/4 of a ton of C4. Gee, Alex, you remember when Oklahoma blew up? You and I were screaming our lungs out, not together, but independently on our different shows. And then, together we got together on a couple shows. And obviously 9/11 too. So 3/4 of a ton of C4, and you're talking about a false flag.
Yeah, let me stop you guys. Type in, I forgot to cover that yesterday. The TSA just ordered massive amounts of C4. It is unbelievable. We're going to be covering that tonight. Guys, type in TSA orders C4, and they claim it's for training. You don't need, you need a thimble amount to train dogs. You don't need giant, containers of it.
Alex, here's what I want people to understand. You have to have the mentality now. You are under an occupation by foreign troops, and the enemy is you. The enemy is me. Look, I don't get a predator over me at 100 feet because, they want to show me their newest technology. That's telling me a message. When Greg, I got to tell you something. This is really critical. If I could say nothing more, this should tell everyone. I had a lieutenant colonel in my office 2 years ago in Montana from Northcom. He was in the psychological operations. He was a Christian, Alex, and he came with tears in his eyes, and he said, Steve, he said, I want to share something with you. I'm scared for where we're heading. He said, when you, and he mentioned you, Alex, and he said, the guys that have warned and warned, we assign cyber warriors to go out and undermine, to place they do everything in their power. But then he said something that startled me, Alex. He said, Steve, I've seen the plans for the U.S. Air Force to bomb, and here's his words, carpet bomb, 5 states specifically: Kentucky, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama. I said, why those states? He said, those are the states that they feel they'll have the most trouble with. And then Greg Evenson, within, I think, 2 days, and this was separate and apart from me, he did not know that. A very short period of time, he gets a call from one of his general friends, and they call it yard farming, okay? Now, that's innocuous. Yard farming is basically when they send a hellfire missile through my front door, and the Lord rebuke them, and may all their attempts fail, and may the entire command and communication system for every drone in America that will be used against American people fail. And I in the name of the living God, may all their communications fail with those things. But the bottom line, Alex, is that yard farming, now that sounds like, well, gee, that sounds innocuous. So, again, how is it that the very military now has, and now it becomes problematic because you just threw up on your screen, or told your guys to throw up on the screen, the general of the Russian Air Force or whatever, what is his name, Gordievsky or something like that. He's in Northcom's headquarters. They show a picture of him flying around in a private jet. And ladies and gentlemen, this is insane. We spend trillions of dollars to, quote, arm for the eventuality of Armageddon, either against Russia or China or whoever. And now all of our enemies are here. And if
who would have ever believed that they would publicly admit they run Al-Qaeda and give them weapons and 10,000 missiles in Libya and now Syria? I mean, it is reaching Fruit Loop level.
It is. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to, again, Alex, there's one thing on my website that I want everybody to go and take a look at. It's critical. It's a prophetic word from a guy named Marcus that Greg Evenson put up, and it's on my Q alerts, and I think it'll blow people's mind. It's a blueprint for what's going to happen the next 4 weeks.
Now, we've been close to crises before, and I agree there's a lot of stuff lined up, a lot of sources. Police are being told big stuff's going to happen. But, you know, there's been evidence of things going to happen in the past that didn't happen. And I believe talking about this does help reduce the fact that it, you know, could take place. I mean, I think a false flag, a financial collapse, that is probable, unless we get the word out. I mean, my goodness. I mean, how would it work? A false flag goes off. They say domestic groups did it. Oh, don't worry, the foreign troops are going to help. I mean, I know that's in all the declassified admissions now. Since NLE 09, they've admitted it. I've talked to Army officers on air where they're trained to work with foreign troops. I've been to urban warfare drills where they train with troops from 6 nations to take on the West Coast and confiscate guns and put us in camps. It's in my film, Police State 2000, free online. So, yes, I mean, I know it, but still, I just don't. People are so mind-controlled, though. They might tell, you know, the general public that if you're not for the foreign occupation, you're a terrorist, and your neighbors might rat you out.
Oh, of course. Neighbors are ratting out each other right now. Look at Jason, the first guy that was arrested because somebody heard him on talk radio. Jason was a talk show host. I think you carried this story.
No, we've had him on the show. He had a popular show. He came and got arrested.
Yeah.
We have the Rob fella, Brandon Robb.
Yeah, and then the other guy, there's another guy named Don M. He's the one I posted that I think you linked to. The bottom line is here's what I want to share with you, Alex Jones. Okay, and this is a good word. You are so on the tip of the spear, but remember this: like an icebreaker, it's the bow of the ship that has to break the ice so the others can follow. But again, the hardest thing, and Alex, I got to admit, this is the hardest thing for me too. So I'm just saying, someone who does what you do, this is the hardest thing for me, to understand that the very military that have taken the oath to defend our nation against all enemies, foreign, domestic, are now, the ones that are left are now in collusion with the invading armies that are here. And by the way, I said 4 weeks, the prophecy that's on my website, Amazing Prophetic Word of the Lord from Brother Marcus. The bottom line is this guy's got something that's real. It's not the typical flaky stuff, and there's so much stuff on the internet. But what's amazing to me is it lays out the next 3 months. I said 4 weeks, 3 months. It also deals with the next 4 weeks. And I would encourage everybody to go to that.
Well, I think God is moving everybody who has discernment that we're at a key point here and that we're all in great danger because of the financial situation, the Iran situation, the funding of Al-Qaeda, the 10,000 Libyan missiles they got, and the government arming against us and demonizing us. I just find it hard to believe that they're going to actually pull the trigger.
Well, I know you did, but again, can I be blunt? there was a lot of stuff. For instance, Genetic Armageddon, you brought it up, and I know we're coming out on that. When I wrote Genetic Armageddon about the transhumanists and the desire for them to totally destroy the image and likeness of the living God as we were created, and I started talking about, obviously, super soldiers. Everybody's, the boards were filled. Ha ha, what a joke, what a crazy guy. The bottom line is... Now
it's all admitted. It's all been admitted.
It's all admitted. So what I'm trying to tell you is this, is that when Greg and I did the show last night with Doug Hagman, and as I'm doing the show with you and you had on Doug the hour before I came on, the bottom line is the tension and the panic in law enforcement, in the intelligence community, and guys going out into fields, not me. I don't meet anybody, any place, anytime. That's just my own security protocol. I violated it once and it almost cost me my life. The bottom line is that given the fact of everything, the preponderance of evidence, Alex, it's not only the scales that have to come off a man's eyes, it's the scales that have to come off our heart. These are the issues. We're trying to resolve probably the most confrontational, dangerous period in history with the emotional base that we have that, quite candidly, isn't prepared for the shock. This is going to be shock and awe, and I told everybody, you heard me say it on your show years ago, everything that's going on in the Middle East is designed to train. They're going to use those tactics against us.
Well, that's all admitted. I just don't see them phase one in a collapse, bringing in the foreign troops. From what I've studied, they would bring in the collapse, then stage false flags, blame it on domestic groups, let the police and military be chewed up in a fight with the people, then they bring in the I-4 NATO forces, and that's on record. No matter how crazy it sounds, that is the plan. For more than 6 years, I've talked on the air about creating a social network. PlanetInfoWars.com is in its beta phase. We're just launching it. And I want to invite all of you out there to be in on the ground level. Planet InfoWars is about people coming together, forming activist organizations, getting involved politically, hunting and fishing, gardening, dating. This is a place for people who love freedom to meet and to talk and to write and to post information. And I give you this pledge. We are not going to spy on you and sell your data to the New World Order. PlanetInfoWars.com is free, so people who love freedom can get together, connect with people who are awake and know what we're facing. Be active, organize, take action, go viral, create, contribute, resist, because resistance is victory. You are victory. It's waiting for you to breathe power into it. PlanetInfoWars.com. Listen, folks, we can disagree about timelines. It's mainstream news. They train with troops from 15 nations to take on domestic terrorists who they say are our veterans and gun owners. That's high treason. It is public that they're arming with all these weapons against us. It's public they're setting up face scanning. So I'm hearing Steve Quayle, and he's talking about all this evidence and stuff. He's been talking about it forever, and then I'm hoping he's wrong. I think we can disagree on timelines, but definitely stuff's getting weird. And I hope that he's wrong. I hope that none of this unfolds. But I know he wouldn't be out here saying all this if he in his heart didn't think things were being green-lighted for this. I just know I talked to a billionaire lady off record, owns a defense contractor company. 4 years ago, I've told you this story, and she said, I'm moving to the Cook Islands. And I said, why? Because of collapse. She said, the United States won't be here. And I just happened to run into her in a lawyer's office. I was there filing some stuff at the big law firm in town. It's got like 50 lawyers, and she was a listener. And then I went and checked who she was after, and it was like, wow, that really is who she said. I was like, why'd you tell me that? I wish I would have asked more, though. This is crazy. This is like before World War I or World War II. Everything's lining up for that. So I don't know what's going to happen in the details, but Steve, I hope you're wrong. But you've got, Hagman sources. I've got police calling and crying. Later confirmed with other high-level police. They're told all, what's going to break loose. I mean, what are your sources saying? How will this start if indeed they pull the trigger?
Alex, they all say it started or you wouldn't have seen it implemented. But when it really gets bad is on the financial collapse. I got to spell it out to you. Imagine everybody in the United States not being able to access their bank accounts, access their credit cards, access their ATM machines. Imagine the trucks stopping. Imagine the people who are used to government subsidies being stopped. And it's going to be across the board. This is going to be affecting everyone. And then imagine that the gangs and you and I talked about this 10 years ago, The gangs that have been given the guns, and oh, by the way, I was a crazy when I was talking about all the Chinese arms being shipped into the gangs on the West Coast.
You said it before. It was even in the LA Times. And I know, I wish I could think that you were crazy. You said that the government was arming gangs nationwide, and now that's admitted.
Right. So the point is that here's the thing. The interesting issue that everybody's got to come to grips with, and really has to come to grips with, is, look, I don't know the timing, and I will agree with you on one thing. In the world of special operations, when an operation is made known, everybody cuts contact with that operation. But the bottom line is that we have the U.S. complicit, and I'm talking about the military establishment right now, with the implementation of martial law, the roundups, the assassinations, everything else. But what they are not getting, look, I was the source, and I think this is what you've got to do and I've got to do. If I've been right, and if my sources have been unfailing, and the ultimate source has been God calling me to be a watchman and proclaiming, because God says his people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and I don't care what a person's position is, they can't argue. Look, 15 years ago, I was telling people this stuff is happening. Now a lot of people are writing books on it and everything. I don't care about that, but what I'm saying is, if it's taken people 15 years to get where I was 15 years ago, I'm trying to tell people what comes next. But the total financial collapse coordinated with an attack on Washington, D.C. and several other major cities, the potential for an EMP attack.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
They're on the news saying, look out, the gun owners and veterans are terrorists. They're the enemy. They're going to attack any minute. I mean, it's just total bizarreness. We've got judges out in places, in Texas saying they're going to fight the New World Order. I mean, it's entering just crazy land. I wish it wasn't all happening. We've got all these different sources saying get ready for all Hades to break loose in September. We got about 5 minutes left. Steve, lay out from your sources how this would unfold. Cyber attack, things go down, riots, and then what, we beg for the troops? I mean, what happens?
Well, they want a 2 to 4 week period where everybody turns loose on everybody. By the way, Alex, concurrent with this, the internet goes down, all communications go dead, except the military communications and their high rack and all their new trunk system. And by the way, they know every single police officer, his allegiance, his alliance, and his stuff. So let's say a police force has 100 officers, and 5 of them are considered, they're not team players. In other words, they won't go along with the New World Order. The 5 will be locked out of the trunk communication system. Everything's digital. 95 people get the order. The 5 guys will be set up for the other 95. The blue list goes into effect. That's when the foreign troops have their pre-assigned targets to assassinate. By the way, let me tell you something. When I started talking about GPSing the front doors for Hellfire missiles, a former helicopter gunship pilot called me and he said, Steve, he said, we have sealed orders and we have all our targets assigned to us in the areas that will be dispatched from. So understand, Alex.
Well, pilots have complained that they've been ordered to go around and practice attacking U.S. cities, not just for foreign targeting. They're practicing for U.S. cities.
Well, our U.S. individuals, and I mean, you said the other day, I think, when we were on your TV show that you had, you saw a drone over you. And the point is, here's what I'm trying to get across to everybody, okay? If what's obvious, now look, what's obvious, everybody's hoping, and this is where hope is good, but misplaced hope was maddening. What will make a difference? Here's what will make a difference. If every man, woman, and fighting person in the military and in the police departments understands. That's why I spend the time I do. That's why you spend.
And you're already on a list if you're a patriot. They already know. Yeah. So speak out now and pray and let everybody know that there is a takeover happening. Because no one can deny the takeovers here. The question is, how severe is it?
Well, can I tell you something? It's terminally severe. You, Alex Jones, cannot interview Graithwall from the Weather Underground days and then see all of those same people now coming into play, the mentors of the current administration and all of the Obama's hierarchy. You cannot have a national law. Listen, the man of perdition, the Bible talks about, is lawlessness. And lawlessness is defined as each man doing that's what's right in his own sight. And now you've got people saying that, look, the Constitution's irrelevant, the Bill of Rights is irrelevant, and and to the degree that our founding fathers said it's designed for a moral people, and the people lose their morality, that's why the effective communist protocols and globalist mind speak and mind control. By the way, concurrent with all this going down, getting back to your question, that's when they turn on the Gwen towers, okay? The electromagnetic, if you will, numbing and dumbing down the mind control towers.
So that's their, well, they admitted in the major paper, it was the Baltimore Sun, 12 years ago, they bragged the CIA and DARPA had set up with the towers systems that can manipulate our minds and calm us. That was in the newspaper.
Absolutely. Under 4 hertz, you go to sleep. Over 6 hertz, you go agitated. And that's where, and please, everybody, this is not a pitch, but you've got to read my zombie series on my website. This is, Alex, when they articulate, when they integrate the radio frequency, when they turn on the power to basically energize a lot of the stuff that's been put into the chemtrail spraying. I mean, they're not only talking about zombie protocols, they're talking about generating the zombie apocalypse.
And by that, you're talking about a bunch of people out of their minds running around crazy.
Yes.
They can do that spraying PCP on people, too. Amazing. Steve Quayle, we got to talk more as this unfolds. His website, stevequayle.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?